Hey guys, and welcome to our first tutorial on CSS. So first I just wanted to talk about what CSS is in case you're not familiar with it. Hopefully you're already familiar with HTML, and if you are not, I would really suggest learning HTML before you dive into CSS. That's just kind of the natural progression of things. So what is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. With HTML, we're really creating the bones of our website or our web page, and CSS is just going to add to that by adding visual elements to it. So CSS, or Cascading Style Sheets, is a style sheet language used for describing the look and formatting of a document written in HTML markup. So what does CSS look like? CSS is going to create a lot of rules that your HTML is going to abide by. And that's what your CSS file will look like. It'll be a long list of rules for your web page to follow. So let's look at the basic format of a CSS rule. So CSS rule is going to have a selector, which tells the HTML what item you're targeting in your HTML file. We're going to have some brackets, of course. And then within these brackets, we're going to put all of the attributes that we want that selector to abide by. So it'll be a certain attribute here, and then we will give it some value that we want that attribute to have. And that's what all CSS rules are going to look like. Some form of this kind of rule. And I guess I'll go ahead and note that this is how you create a comment in CSS as well. You're going to do the / asterisk and then * to end it. So let's go ahead and comment that out. We'll have it there to look at later on. So as you can see, I have a heading over here in my HTML. It just says the basic hello world. And now what we want to do is write a CSS rule that will target this. So in CSS, we can target a certain type of element like a heading, a paragraph, a div tag, or we can give our HTML classes or IDs if we want to be more specific, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But first, let's just see how a really basic CSS rule will work. So since we want to target this heading over here, this is the H1 element, heading 1. So all we're going to do is put that in for our selector here. So we want to be targeting the heading 1 tags in our HTML file. Then of course we need to create our brackets for our CSS rule. Now we want to choose some kind of attribute and value that we want to apply to our heading 1 element over here. So we'll just do something really simple and try to change the color of the text for the heading 1 element. So what that looks like is the attribute is called color, and that targets the color of text. And we can choose any color here. We'll just put in blue. And we're going to end that with a semicolon. And as you can see, our Hello World heading has changed to blue from black. And we can change that to any kind of color we want. Turquoise, perhaps. And you can see that this rule is targeting any heading 1 elements that we have in our page. So if we were to create another one in our HTML, you'll see that that one is also going to be blue because this rule is going to apply to all heading 1 elements. On the other hand, if we create a different heading element or any other element that's not a heading 1, so we'll put in an H2 element here. You'll see that this rule is not going to apply to this one because it's not an H1 element. And those are the true basics of CSS. So again, what your CSS file is going to look like is a bunch of rules that follow this format. So selector, brackets, attributes, and values. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Thank y'all for joining us for this lesson, and I will see you guys in the next video.